Hey, what's up, everyone? It is Chris Reifert from Autopsy. You are listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast. Cool, I got coffee and everything here.
Yeah, me too. You doing all right?
Oh, yeah, doing super good. How about you?
I can't complain at all. We schedule like once a month on a Tuesday to do podcasts all day long. Usually my partner's here.
Cool.
Usually I have a partner with me, but she had to dip off early, so you got just me.
Okay, cool. Well, you got just me here, too. That's all right, yeah.
So let's talk about Autopsy. I guess we could just jump right in. Morbidity Triumphant was released, last Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's been the response to
indeed.
it? What's been the response to it so far, and how do you feel about it? Are you satisfied with the outcome?
Yeah. I mean, response has been actually kind of surprising. It's been better than usual for whatever reason. You know, of course, there's going to be a couple people that wish it was Mental Funeral or something like that,
right?
But largely, it's been really surprisingly good. You know, I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, we're real happy with the reception so far. And what do we think? I don't know. We're so tightly connected with it. You know, it's hard to just listen to it as a listener. Although I'm starting to get a little more of a sense of that. But it was just so frenzied trying to get it done,
right? Because
of our time constraints and stuff. We had to hurry up and blast it out, and then jump off to Portugal, like, you know, a couple weeks after finishing. So it was very kind of stressful in that way. You know, it was a lot of like looking at the clock, so to speak. You know,
right.
Like, oh my god. But we did it. You know, and maybe that worked in our favor. You know, I mean, there was a sense of urgency in the recording, and that may have carried over into the listening. So. But yeah, we're super happy with it, and we love Wes's cover art. You know, overall, I'll just say super happy.
Sweet. So this is kind of a two-part question, but I mean, you're 7 records in I don't know how many decades. What is it? 3 almost? 3?
What now?
I said you're 7 records in, and how long have you been at this? Like 3 decades or 2 decades, right?
Oh, with Autopsy, we started in '87, so
yeah.
It's 35 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does it feel, or how hard is it not to write the same song, or to be different from the last record, or is that something you even concern yourself with?
No, that's a good question, and that's very much something we concern ourselves with. We don't ever want to, you know, say like, oh, people really like that riff in The Grip of Winter. Let's, you know, write that one again, but with a different note,
right?
something like that. You know, no, that's actually a super good question. No, we always want to come up with different riffs and different songs. I mean, we have to sound like ourselves, you know, so we're not going to throw like Trivium riffs or Dream
right.
Theater bits or some shit in there, you know, but as long as we sound like ourselves, then that gives us the freedom to mess around with different notes and riffs and tempos and changes of tempos and things like that. So I know we all consciously think when we're writing that we should be aware of the fact that we should not recycle anything that we've already done. And, you know, so anything you hear is that's where our heads were at, trying to come up with stuff that we haven't done before, but still sounds like us. So right. Yeah, very, very legit to ask.
Okay. So, I mean, you guys have been, like we talked about, since '87, and you guys are pretty much considered pioneers of the genre. Do you ever feel any sort of responsibility for when you're writing music, you know, to your proteges or the people that have come after you, who you've carved the way for?
No. I mean, we weren't the first death metal band, and we won't be the last. I mean, we started when it was still a, you know, relatively new thing, but, you know, it's not like we created the genre or something like that. You know, we're kind of just a link in the chain. You know, there was bands before us, and like I said, there'll be more after we're gone. You know, so no, we don't worry about that at all. You know, it's the main thing is getting back to the songwriting thing and just trying to sound like ourselves. That's pretty much it. You know, so it's not very complicated.
All right. When you guys are writing, though, are you all writing together? Are you able to do that, or is it like the old school days, or are you bouncing stuff back and forth via email?
Yeah, we wrote together a little bit in the early days, but not really so much these days. I mean, things are different just in the way that, we're not teenagers anymore, and
right.
Our lives our personal lives are different, even though our brains aren't. We still think the same way, are still idiots in our same ways, and
right.
not idiots in other ways, stuff like that. But, back before we had to worry about life, it was different. So we'd sit around in the garage or bedroom and bounce riffs off each other a little bit, but pretty much these days, everyone pretty much writes by themselves, so like, just for example, let's say, Danny writes a song, he'll make a recording of it and, email it, or, now you can like text audio
right.
recordings and stuff like that. So yeah, so everyone just kind of writes a song and is like, hey, here's my new song, check it out. And then we pretty much always like our stuff, no one ever has to say, oh, your new song sucks, we can't play that.
Right.
So that's cool, so mostly it's just a matter of checking out someone's new song and learning it, maybe learning it a little bit at home. Like I draw like maps on paper, these weird, drummer maps that correlate with the guitars. And so I like to show up in the rehearsal room sort of knowing what's happening, but if not, then whoever wrote the song will just kind of walk us all through it. And then lyrics are usually the last thing. Like I don't ever do vocals on new songs in the rehearsal room. That comes after the album. So I can wait till the last minute to write lyrics. And then the hard part is after the album's done, if we're going to play songs off the new album, then I have to learn how to do the vocals and play drums at the same time and memorize the lyrics. So that's
right.
For me, that's the hard part.
Hey, that's a whole lot of things going on at once. That's for sure.
It's a lot of input. So we've actually been doing that because we have a show coming up in a few weeks, and we're throwing a handful of songs off the new album into the set. So I've got some homework to do, but it's good for you, keeps you moving.
Oh yeah. What's it like being back on the road after, that break, that mandatory break everyone had to take?
Pretty good. It just kind of overwhelming at first because there was 2 years, just about 2 years where, we were all riding the hamster wheel, just doing the same thing every day, all day, and
right.
No variation. And then all of a sudden it's just like, wow, everything. So it started in January of this year with an LA show, Los Angeles, and that was the first one back. And then it was just basically a matter of everything that had been booked and had been postponed or whatever just came back this year. But like I've been telling people, the pieces in the puzzle box got all shook up, and then the puzzle was reassembled differently. So it was like all the same shows, but different months, different dates, stuff like that.
Yeah. Was it weird getting back on stage? Were there any nerves or any kind of trepidation?
Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, yeah, it was weird because it was a big transition going back to normal life, like just the whole like masks and all that stuff or lack of or whatever. So LA was a trip. That was the first one back with a large crowd of people. And I think people just in general weren't sure how to conduct themselves, but it was a killer show and everyone ended up going crazy. And like, I think by the time we played, no one was worried about that stuff anymore. It was just like, oh, here we are, let's go crazy, fuck it. So yeah, and then things kind of seemed to get a little bit more normal. And then we did the album right after LA. Like we had to just hurry up and jump in the studio and do that. And then immediately switch gears and go to Portugal and Holland. And then just as a reminder of the fact that things weren't normal, I came home with fucking COVID from Holland, and that was weird, man. It did weird shit to my vision for like fucking 7 weeks.
Really?
As a result. And then that finally got normal. But yeah, I was like, oh, guess what? Things are still not totally the same. But we soldiered on and still did all the shows we were supposed to do, and and are still doing them. And now we're going to Chicago into this month. So it's been a pretty nutty year.
That's great. Are you guys one of those bands that is always writing, or you guys, set aside a time to do that?
No, sip of coffee. No, we just pretty much, I think, write when we know there is a reason to write. At least that's how I am. I think the other guys are more or less the same way. Like if we have an album, if we're talking about doing a new album, then that'll spark the writing, then we'll have a purpose, and then once we have a studio date, that accelerates the writing.
Yeah, you got to get it done.
Deadline coming up,
right?
You can't fall short or be like, sorry guys, I got nothing, or when we don't have time to write in the studio, or studio time is quick. We don't have time to hang around and watch movies or fucking play backgammon or some shit. We get in there and just go for it, and then we're done. So that's the deadline is what makes the writing happen, for the most part. Or, we're just talking about, hey, we should do an album, that, we'll probably start writing a bit just to get started. But really deadlines are what make us, that's what makes everything happen, deadlines. Otherwise we just, I don't know, do whatever else we're doing.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the backgammon in the studio, because I'm going to just digress for a second. But back in the late 80s, early 90s, and I'm dating myself, but I was an engineer at the Hit Factory in New York, and those were the days when, record companies had budgets, or bands had budgets from the record companies, and, they would get these great big lockouts for weeks on end. And I remember sitting there waiting for people, to order hookers, get their hair cut. I mean, because they didn't care. They weren't paying for the studio time.
The funny thing is, though, I'm sure they did pay for it in the end.
Yeah.
Studio budgets are basically a loan.
Yes, you're 100% right. But I think it was a different time then. And I think I know a lot of these people were young, and they were just like, oh shit, we just got all this fucking money. Let's go have fun with it, never realizing it was coming out the other side, like you said. And then, where are they now? Because they had to pay all that shit back.
I've read stories about big bands from around then, just, doing these lavish things and just, feeling like rock stars and all that. And then later going, oh, that wasn't our money to blow. They were just basically lending it to us.
Right.
What we've done. So that, there is that. But yeah, that's not us.
Now times have changed drastically. I mean, I don't even know if there's any of those real big studios around anymore. If there are, they're very few and far between, right?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty around. I mean, we were bummed out when Fantasy Studios closed, because that was one of those, the like super nice ones that we did a whole bunch of stuff at, and then they ended up closing the doors. But I do wonder sometimes, I don't know if you hear about it so much now, but definitely in the 90s and stuff like that, bands talking about, oh yeah, our drummer, he fucking banged out his drums in 2 months. We couldn't believe it, and stuff like that. Or we did the album in 6 months. We were really hauling ass, or stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad you got time for that. We're in there for 7 days or 8 days. That's including the mix. Right.
And that's 8 tracks or whatever, right?
Yeah. So, everyone works in different ways, but, we just get right to the point and get the fuck out.
That's beautiful. So you said you've got a couple dates coming up, and what are you doing after that? Do you have a tour going on, or is it just going to be one-offs?
Well, our proper touring days are definitely long over in terms of like getting in a van or a bus or an RV and slogging around somewhere for a month. We'll, absolutely never do that again. We did that in a few times, in like the early 90s, and that was enough. I know there's a lot of bands that's a way of life for them, and they just can't not be on the road, but it would kill it for us. We would fucking hate it. Everyone has actual home lives that they enjoy now too. So, but we have been, having said that, we've been doing, a lot of traveling this year. We did the LA and Portugal and Netherlands and Baltimore and Portland and Texas and the UK and now Chicago. And we did a local one too in there, which was fun. But the Chicago one this month is the last one for the year. And then I think we're going to get back, speaking of such things, back into songwriting mode and attempt to do a new album next spring, so it doesn't turn into another handful of years to get another album out, because we used to try and do one every year or some kind of release or whatever. Things got all jumbled up. Right. And we'd like to get productive again and not just be like a nostalgia act of something like, hey, remember what we used to do? Here we are.
Right.
Something like that. So I think that's what we'd like to do. And then we have a couple of shows booked for next year, only 2 so far. I don't know what else is going to fall into place for gigs. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't know. We got kind of a blank slate for next year, which is nice.
Right. Right, do whatever. But hey, so what does an Autopsy crowd look like nowadays, right? Because I imagine it's multi-generational, like people like myself taking their kids or their grandkids to the shows, right?
Yeah, I'm asking all the cool questions, I got to tell you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no one's been asking me things like this. It's really cool because, yeah, different generations. That was the first time we experienced that was when we did our big quote-unquote comeback show, or whatever you want to call it, in 2010. And having not played a show since 95 with Autopsy, we didn't know anything about what to expect, even though, some of us had done other bands and played shows and whatever. This was Autopsy again. So It was like totally different thing. So we didn't know if we were going to walk out on stage and everyone went, boo, you suck,
right,
or yay, or whatever. Honestly, we had no idea, and we hadn't played out for so long. We were like, fuck, how's this going to go? We have no idea. And then the cool thing was we went out and did a quick line check for like 20 seconds. And everyone just blew up, like it was like a sea of yeah and stuff. We're like, oh shit, that was the line check, nice. So that was like, okay, everything's going to be okay. We can relax a little bit. But the reason I even mentioned that at all is because we got to see the crowd. It was an outdoor show. It was Maryland Death Fest 2010 in Baltimore. It was out in some city street there. Shit tons of people, and we were tripping out because we're like, oh my God, there's all the people like, from our age bracket or give or take. And then there's like 17-year-olds and shit like that. And then we're playing, we could see them like singing our lyrics as we played it. So it wasn't like, oh, my dad forced me to go to this dumb show, ooh, but they were like singing the lyrics and shit. So we're like, oh my God, this is like, it's cool on several levels. I mean, number one, it's being passed on to the next generation, not to sound old or whatever, but it's true. But at some point, we're going to all fall over dead. And, if these guys keep this whole thing going and pass it on to the next generation, how cool is that?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So it's good that we're enjoying it in our lifetime. But it's also cool because it means death metal as a thing has passed the test of time and is not suffered the fate of like groove metal or insert subgenre here that no one cares about anymore. It's like, not only is it past the test, but it's actually, I don't want to say acceptable because that would be lame and it should never be acceptable, but it's more well known than ever now. I mean, you could just walk up to someone at your local Safeway and then be like, do you know what death metal is? And they'll go, yeah, I think it sucks, but I know what it is.
Right. But it's not meant for everybody, though.
X amount of years ago, someone would be like, security?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's pretty cool. So there's different, I don't know, it's metal people at our shows, with maybe an occasional oddball or whatever once in a while, which is fantastic. Come on over, come and see us. It's great. But yeah, great. Super good. I mean, shit, we even, as a lot of people know now, last time we played Maryland Death Fest, we even had some chick taking a piss in a guy's mouth and sitting on his face in the middle of the pit while we played our show. So, I mean, what else do you want? Just checking all the boxes here.
I was supposed to be at that festival, but I live in Richmond, so I'm about 2.5 hours, and the weather was so fucked up that day. I couldn't even get out of my neighborhood.
Oh, it was hot as hell. I remember that.
No, the rain. There was like a wicked storm down here, and I couldn't make it I couldn't make the drive.
Oh, yeah, we didn't have rain over in Baltimore. It was just oppressive heat.
Yeah, but you had that. You talked about that, and then I think somebody jumped off a balcony there, or a parking garage too.
Oh yeah, that was the day before we played. Someone actually killed themselves at some point during day one. I know that was horrible for the promoters having to.
Yeah.
Well, not just for the promoters,
everyone
but,
involved.
Everyone involved. That sounded so bad when I started to say that, but they were the ones that we were in contact with, and they were like, "How do we deal with this? This is fucked."
Yeah.
And then just everyone from like family members to people that had to see it to whatever. It's just all. I mean, I'm not going to make light of it.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah, it's terrible. So that's how I guess that's how the fest started, and then, but overall, it was killer. The fest was awesome, as it always is. Those guys know exactly what they're doing.
I bet you got a lot of good press or free press from that on stage or that offstage incident.
Oh man, yeah, it was funny because we had no idea. We were playing our set, and then we got done, and then someone showed us like pictures. They're like, "Oh, did you know this thing happened?" We're like, "No, we were playing our show. We had no idea." And then for the next couple shows after that was like all anyone wanted to ask us about. "Oh, did you know this thing happened?" We're like,
right.
"Yeah, we know." So eventually it was just like, "Yeah, we know." But, since if you're going to ask what a crowd looks like at one of our shows, and I have to talk about that. But,
absolutely.
And then apparently the next show was Portland, and we were told that someone got kicked out of the show for taking a shit in the pit, which
really
not nearly as exciting, but it's points for effort, I guess.
I guess I wouldn't want to be the rest of the people in the pit, though.
No, certainly not. Yeah, but anyways, those things almost never happen. But when they do, it's like it's like when a plane crashes. It almost never happens, but when it does, it's like, oh my god.
Yep. So one more about the writing of the record, and I've only got a couple other ones. We're just chatting, but do you guys go into writing records with? I know you're very horror influence or whatever, but do you go into or gore influence? But do you go into writing a record with a theme in mind, or do the songs just take shape
with what in mind? I'm sorry.
With a theme.
A theme?
Yeah.
No, just one by one, just individual songs.
And so,
if I understood the question,
no, you got it. That's what I was kind of aiming at. So they're just individual songs, and then they, you put them on the record themselves. You're not really coming up with it.
Yeah. We don't ever think about the big picture of the album. Like how songs are going to interplay with one another or connect or whatever. That's kind of like the last thing after. Sometimes we know the order ahead of time, but a lot of the time we don't. We just record all the songs, and then you just. We talk to each other. We're like, oh, this song ends this way, and this song starts this way, so we should put them together and try and make it. We don't haphazardly, come up with a running order.
Right.
Like we don't care. So we actually take great pains to make sure that the album flows in a cool way. So it's not like, oh, all the fast songs are here and all of or whatever.
Well,
But writing now with just one song at a time, and then we stick them together after the fact.
So I actually think that, being an ex-audio engineer, I think that there is a lost art in the art of sequencing, right? Because back in the day, you put that record together, like you said, so there was a sort of flow, mood, whatever you want to call it. You weren't worried about every week having to drop a single. And then, so, kids like us, we'd go home and listen to the record start to finish, like you sequenced it, and then read the artwork and read the liner notes. It's a shame that all that shit is gone.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of people that, it's not, there's other alternatives now. A lot of people listen to music online or, download albums.
One song at a time.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. Yeah. I think that's probably a generational thing, but I could be wrong about that. But,
right.
But as long as people are still listening, that's good. It could be worse if no one cared about music
They could not
anymore.
listen, right?
Yeah, so at least it's different from what we grew up with, but at least they're still hopefully getting that feeling that you get when you listen to something that you like, whether it's, I prefer, I don't ever listen to just individual songs. I don't do any streaming. I mean, I'm strictly like, not to be an elitist or some prick or something, but honestly, I just do like vinyl and CDs.
Yeah.
You know, it's just what I happen to like. And I still do that thing where when I buy a new album, I'll listen to the whole thing. I'll sit in my little room in my little chair and like listen to the whole thing and like read everything.
Yeah.
You know, the notes, the stare at the cover. I mean, that's what I did as a kid, you know, like when I first started getting albums. But, so I like that. It's like an experience, you know, it's like you're going on a little adventure.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, at least people are still listening, so that's good. And, you know, a lot of people are buying vinyl and now CDs are cool again, or so I'm told, you know, and cassettes are still kind of lurking in the background. So at least those things are still out there, which means people are still wanting them, you know, even if it's not on the scale that it used to be, because now there's more convenient, easily digestible ways to get music in your system. But fuck it, man, you know, we're here and alive and records still exist. So what the hell? It's all good.
So my last question then is, however many years we talked about you're in this, do you ever imagine you'd still be doing it?
I would not even imagine that the year 2022 would be real.
Right.
If you know, if like, as a 18 or 17 or whatever, teen-year-old young, disgusting lad, if someone from the future popped into my room and said, "Hey, you're still going to be playing this racket in 2022," I'd just say 2022 isn't a year. That's the future.
Right.
no one's going to be alive then.
Right.
So,
crazy.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a mind fuck, but it's cool. You know, it's, you know, I don't know. It's just, I'm not tired of it. You know, I still love doing it. I'm terrible at everything else in life, so I'm glad to have music to occupy myself with.
Right. Well, cool, man. That's all I've got, Chris. I'm sorry we kind of had a mix-up getting it all worked out, but
Gassed.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, no problem at all.
Good luck with the record and the tours, and stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Right on, man.
Right.
Thanks so much, and take it easy.
All right, be well. Bye.
Bye.
Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.